I'm sure a lot of you guys remember the old ceremonial hunting tradition of eating the heart out of the first animal you kill. Meat from those organs are among the most nutrient-rich foods on the planet. You can get those same benefits your ancestors craved via convenient daily capsules from Heart and Soil. Find out more at heartandsoil.co. And remember, use code MeatEater for 10% off your purchase. There's nothing like snook hook sets at dawn or catching a tarpon in the moonlight. Find your next fishing trip made easy on fishingbooker.com and experience the magic of the Sunshine State or any other destination on your fishing bucket list. Book a blue water adventure in search of sailfish or go snapper fishing with the kids. With over 6,000 captains and trips to choose from, planning your next one just got a whole lot easier. Download the Fishing Booker app on the Google Play or App Store or visit them online at fishingbooker.com to book your trip today.
Welcome to the Wired to Hunt podcast, your home for deer hunting news, stories, and strategies. And now, your host, Mark Kenyon.
Welcome to the Wired to Hunt podcast. I'm your host, Mark Kenyon, and this is episode number 66. Today on the show, Dan and I are kicking back, talking deer, and discussing our hopes and dreams for the upcoming season. So here we go. All right, welcome to the Wired to Hunt podcast. This is episode number 66, and as I just mentioned a few seconds ago, today I want to throw back to an episode we did about 1 year ago, where we talked about our goals, hopes, and hit lists for 2014, and I want to do the exact same thing for this year. So it's just me and Dan, and we're going to catch up. We're going to talk about the season that is just a matter of weeks away, and I think it's going to be fun. What do you think, Dan?
Just opened a Coors Light because I need it.
I like it. I just opened a Bud Light just before we started recording, so I think we're on the same page.
Good. I'm ready to talk deer. I didn't get my fix today yet, so I'm ready to talk about the past, the present, and the future.
Yeah, and I'm excited. You know, we've had some great guests this past couple weeks and months, but I'm excited to just have it be the two of us, just to kind of bullshit, catch up, relax a little bit, talk about what we're excited about. I think there's a lot we have to catch up on. So, and in general, you know, as we usually are, I'm getting stoked, especially stoked, because as of last night around 10 p.m. Eastern time, I'm back in Michigan, back in the Midwest, and it's time to hunt some whitetails, or at least time to get ready to hunt some whitetails. So,
start the process. Have you been shooting your bow while you were out in Idaho?
I have, but not as much as I usually do. I brought my bow out there and a couple arrows and a little tiny Reinhardt kind of circle target. I don't know what to call it. But not as much as I usually do. So I actually just today went and bought a new target, a bigger target, because my usual big black target's all blown through from the past couple of years, and I've been needing to upgrade. So bought one of those Reinhardt 18-in-1s. So we're going to try that out. And then I think I'm gonna buy a new 3D target too. So they didn't have one.
Don't buy the one I bought.
I know.
It takes arrows really well, but it pisses me off because you put 3 arrows in it, and the legs come apart from the body.
The legs come off, the antlers come off, the ears come off. I had the same one. I still have the same one, but after I used it for like a year and a half, maybe, I just put it in the garage, and I've rarely taken it out since.
Yeah. I might blow it up or something just to do something cool with it.
Be a cool video.
Yeah.
I want to get a new 3D. Again, I'm leaning towards, you know, I don't really have a favorite target brand. I've tried a bunch. I've tried Morel, I think is the brand. I've tried whoever makes the Glendale, and I've tried the Block, and I've tried Reinhardt. I'm kind of leaning towards sticking with Reinhardt right now, just because from everything I hear, they last the longest.
Yeah.
So that's what I bought. Like I said, I bought the 18-1. I'm going to try that out. And so right now I'm debating what 3D one to buy. I'm leaning towards the Reinhardt, but I'm still not for sure on that. So we'll see. In the next week or so, I'll figure it out.
Good luck with your decision making.
Thank you. If someone saw me today, they would know that I must have been, what's the right word? Coming off of like whitetail deprivation, because I couldn't get any work done today. And so I was like, I need to go just buy some shit. So I went, so I was going to go to Cabela's, but I ended up not having time because I had to get back for this. So I went to Gander Mountain and I bought a new target. I got new arrows. I got new broadheads. I bought some Centaway and some nose jammer and some attractant to bring down to my Ohio property, put in front of some trail cameras and a whole bunch of crap like that. So I dropped a few $100 tonight just to get my whitetail fix.
I feel like that's all I've been doing this year is buying stuff, like especially for the Idaho trip, because I didn't have any of that stuff that I needed, for the backpacking up into the mountains, spend 6 days type of trip. But like even this year, I bought some broadheads, I bought a target, I bought what else? That like a new string, all those that mineral batteries for your trail camera. All that stuff starts adding up, and next thing you know, you're like, holy shit, what happened to the savings account that I have specifically for this?
Yeah, the other day, my wife and I went through our finances, and we were going through trying to figure out, all the stuff that we got to figure out. It's especially unique for me since I don't get a steady paycheck. I just kind of have periodic lumps of money coming in, and so I was trying to kind of figure all that out and figure out how much money we had left for the year and how much more was going to come in, etc. And as we were going through that, I pulled up my checking account transactions, and I was going through it line by line, just trying to see how much am I averaging a month spending on stuff. When I pulled out all the bills and then looked at just miscellaneous expenses, I won't say the dollar amount per month, but the dollar amount made my wife say, like, what the hell are you buying? She's like, what, and how do you spend that much money on nothing every month? And it's like, a Coke here, McDonald's there, a DVD, a book. There's like tiny little things that just add up to a bunch of money every month.
Right.
So basically, I'm going broke because I'm buying too much McDonald's.
Hey, man, maybe I will be equal with you, even though you've spent all that time in the mountains.
Yeah, you know what? I weighed myself last night when I got home, and I am exactly what I weighed when I left. So,
well, maybe you lost some fat, but put like muscle on your legs.
Yeah, I hope so. I know for sure. I mean, I definitely. I'm whether or not I weigh differently, I'm definitely in better shape.
Yeah,
like from what I was handling at the beginning of the trip to what I'm handling at the end of the trip, much better. So I'm feeling very good for what we'll be doing up in the mountains as far as physically being able to handle it. So
I bought one of those training masks. Mm-hmm. It restricts your breathing basically, so it's harder to breathe in and exhale as well. Obviously, it can't simulate the thin air, but it really does work your lungs.
Is that the thing that makes you look like Bane from Batman?
Yep, that's right.
That is BA. Like I want one of those just to walk around the grocery store.
Yeah, I had one out, and I was on the treadmill at the gym at work, and a lady came in, and she was surprised and looked at me like, okay, is this guy going to do a mass shooting, or is he just going to run on the treadmill? So
I think you're scary even without the mask, so I can't imagine. I can't imagine what you looked like with that thing on. Oh man, so we're both excited about deer hunting,
right?
And we got a lot of stuff to talk about with deer hunting, and I'm all of a sudden having all sorts of deer hunting related things happening in this week and next week because I've been gone the past 2 months. So I've got a couple exciting updates to share with you.
I want you to start on your way back from Idaho. You stopped in Iowa, right?
I did.
And you tried to access some ground, public, private. I want to hear about that.
Yeah, so, as we've talked about, I drew an Iowa tag this year, but I have nowhere to hunt in Iowa. So my plan, like you just said, was on our way home from Idaho, because we left last Friday, did a backpacking trip, camped a few places. Excuse me, I've got the Bud Light burps over here. On the way back, we were going to stop in Iowa, I was going to knock on doors and try to get someone to give me permission to hunt this fall. So, to set the stage, over the past couple months, I've been doing research, trying to put together a list of properties that I wanted to ask. And I was greatly aided by one of my friends who lives out there. I got to give him props because in this general area where I hunt, where a bunch of my friends hunt, he's gotten to know a lot of the people around there and just kind of knew a bunch of properties that would be worth asking. So he's been sending me names. So you should ask this guy, you should ask this gal, etc. So I've slowly been accumulating a list of names that would be worth looking into. And then between those names and then doing some research on my own, I've been taking these names, going onto the county GIS maps, which shows you the property like a satellite view, and then it outlines the parcel borders for every property, and then you can click on each property and see who owns it, what their home address is, all that stuff. So I was able to do that for all these names I'd been accumulating. So I ended up arriving in Iowa with a list of, I think, 11 or 12 properties that were high on my list that I want to check out. And by the end of what's today? Today's Thursday. Tuesday was my big asking day. I knocked on 13 doors on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And I did a whole lot of driving because I had to knock on a bunch of doors multiple times because they weren't home, or I kept circling around trying to wait till someone was there, till I could find somewhere, walk around the barns. But knocked on 13 doors. Probably put 200 miles on my truck just driving around eastern Iowa. But I have news to share about the results of those 13 door knocks.
Okay.
And I want your guess of those 13 door knocks. Do you think, how many yeses did I get between 0 and 13? How many yeses do you think I got?
Okay, so I'm going to go based off my experience. Okay, so the worst day I ever had, I knocked on 22 doors and was told no 22 times.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know that feeling.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of say optimistic, and I'm gonna say 2.
Think I got 2 yeses, huh?
Yep, 2 yeses.
And did I didn't talk to you about this yet, did I? I might have, and I forgot about it, if possible.
No, you didn't.
Okay, I didn't think so. So the answer is 2 yeses.
Oh, nice.
You were spot on, my friend.
God, I'm good. I might play lottery tonight.
You're very good, yeah. And I'm very happy about those 2 yeses because it was access to 2 farms that equate to 1,250 frickin' acres.
That's pretty good.
That's incredible. As far as I'm concerned, that's incredible.
So what's it look like? Are we talking a lot of ag? Or are we talking fingers, big chunks of timber? Does it have it all?
I'm talking like if you were to go on Whitetail Properties website and go look at like the best like $2 million farms with the big giant bucks and like all the topography and the huge fingers of timber that come out and creek bottoms and mixed in little fingers of beans and corn and everything that kind of gives you a white-tailed chubby, that's what these properties look like.
Geez, so you struck gold.
I struck gold. I got super, super lucky, very fortunate. So I'm very excited about it. But the thing is like, I'm used to when I hunt in Michigan or Ohio, these other spots, like there's so many more people, back east that the properties are all broken up into much smaller parcels. So, almost all the farms around here are 40s or 80s. A big farm, like a 160-acre farm out here is a big farm in Michigan. Yeah. So whenever I've gotten permission in the past, it's been 20 acres, 40 acres, 80 acres, 90 acres. I've never gotten permission on something this big. So I'm, this is slightly new for me because I'm used to getting a 100-acre property and saying, okay, I got to figure out this 100 acres. And then I figure it out, scout it out, figure out how to hunt it. But now I'm saying, okay, so this farm's got 700 and this farm's got 500. Where the heck do I start? So
the good thing about this is you can only hunt so many acres of that, right? You're not going to hunt in the middle of an ag field. So don't think of it as, 1,200 acres or however many. Think of it as, 200 acres. And that's where you have to focus on.
Yeah. And there's a lot of huntable ground. I lucked out. Like I said, just super lucked out. This isn't one of those, these aren't these farms that are like 90% ag ground and just a little corner of timber. It's like both of them are just like kind of like the picture perfect type of farm. If I could say, if I got to just choose, out of thin air the farm I wanted, both of these two kind of are those features. It's just all these fingers of timber that run out and tons of little secluded fields and fingers of fields and lots of ridges and hills and water sources and all sorts of stuff. So, like you said, though, the key is going to be narrowing down, what's huntable, and then looking at that huntable ground and then saying, okay, what's the very best of this, and then focusing my efforts there. And so that leads me to what I did Tuesday night. So I figure, this stuff, but I'll walk you through what I did just because if there's other people listening that might, encounter a situation like this, maybe my experiences are helpful. So I got permission on these two farms, about 1,200 and so many acres. I got home that night, not home, but back to the campground. We camped out there. We went to McDonald's where I could get Wi-Fi access, and I pulled up the GIS maps for each property so I could see the borders, and then I pulled up Google Earth, and then I pulled up mytopo.com. And in between these tools online, Google Earth will show me the satellite imagery and like a 3D rendering of the property, so you can zoom in, zoom out, fly across your property, drop down to like a perspective of like I'm standing at the bottom of the creek and I can look up and see all the hills around me. That gives me a great idea of the lay of the land. And then with mytopo.com, you can get free topographic maps, which I could then very clearly see the contour lines, where the ridges are, where the valleys are, where the saddles are, all that stuff. And what I did is I compared those three maps, the satellite, Google Earth, parcel borders, and topo. I guess that's 4. And I could then, really get a good idea of both these properties. And then I started like crossing sections off. Like I'm not going to pay attention to this section. I'm not going to pay attention to this section. I'm going to, like you just said, I'm going to cross off the big fields. And I kind of narrowed down each farm to a core area that I was the most interested in. I studied that all night. Then I woke up really early Wednesday morning, so yesterday morning, since we're recording this on Thursday, which, speaking of, apologies to all the listeners for the late episode this week, but I didn't get home till really late last night, so we just weren't able to do it. But Wednesday morning, I headed out at like 6 in the morning to the first farm, and I walked, the sections that I was most interested in based on the maps. I walked all through there, and it's just gorgeous. I mean, big fingers of timber, rolling hills, deep creek bottoms, lots of deer sign. Now, one thing to note is on both of these farms, I'm not the only guy that hunts them. So there's definitely other hunters out there. I think one guy said there was 3 to 5 other guys out there in general that I think roughly around there. And the other farm, I think it was similar, but they said they were mostly shotgun hunters. So I know I'm likely to encounter, pressure in other hunters, and I'm going to have to adjust to that. But given the fact that these farms are so big compared to what I'm used to in Michigan, that's probably low pressure. On 500 acres in Michigan, I'm probably dealing with like 12 hunters. So it'll be okay.
Did you see any tree stands?
I saw 2 on each.
2 on each.
So I consider that very minimal.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't walk every square inch. There's tons of ground that I didn't see. So there's probably more. I'm sure there's more. But the fact that what I did walk, I only saw 2, I was decently happy with that. So I walked both farms as much as I could. I wore myself out, very exhausted. Tons ups and downs, steep hills, cliffs, rivers, creeks, all the stuff. Bumped some deer. I bumped one deer that I didn't see, but he just, you hear a big buck bouncing away, you just know it's a big buck.
It's almost like you can feel him hit the ground.
Yes, it's the feeling. You feel the impact. I had one of those, and it was like bedded in like a stereotypical, prototypical buck bed. Like I was walking, and I'm like, there's got to be bucks bedded on this, and then boom, ba boom, ba boom. So that was good. And in general, just I liked both properties a lot. I had a very limited amount of time to scout them because we had to take off by like 1 o'clock in the afternoon in order to get home last night. We were trying to record last night, so I was trying to get home in time for that. So I just had a few hours on both properties, but what I saw was very encouraging. And from what I know, some of the people I know out there, there's good history on both properties or right around both properties. Some very good deer have been taken around both of them, so I'm feeling good, Dan.
Did you drop any trail cameras?
Yes, I put 1 trail camera on each.
Good. Mineral, like a bag of corn or something like that?
Yep, I put out Oh, what did I put out? Put out Trophy Rock and then this Big and J like liquid attractant on each of them.
Gotcha.
Because that was easily packed in. So yeah, hopefully I'll get a little bit of intel when I come back in October to check those out. And here's my question for you, Dan.
Yeah.
And I've got a strong opinion on this, but you're gonna have to tell me. I think that even though I'm not gonna be able to check these pictures until October, I feel like they should be eligible for our trail camera contest.
So you're saying then hardhorn too?
Well, we were gonna do just velvet, right?
Right. That was the original. If you want, I mean, if it counts.
So I'm just saying, can we wait until I check those cameras to look at the velvet pictures I'm gonna have in August?
Right. I can't. I won't be able to wear a Michigan State hat until the rut vacation anyway. So
yeah.
We'll allow it.
All right, very good. Then I feel better about my chances by a little bit at least.
Good. Yeah, I mean, it sounds to me like you got a lot of coverage.
Yeah, I wish I had like 10 cameras to put out there, because I bet you I would have got some big ones for sure on camera if I put a bunch of cameras out there. But
right.
I just had to throw one up in a spot I thought would be decent in the 2 hours I got to walk the property. And since I know there's other guys on these properties, but I just don't know who they are and stuff, I was worried about putting them out in the open at all. So
yeah.
They're in spots kind of tucked away that maybe wouldn't be the place I would usually put a camera, but I just wanted to put somewhere in a half decent place, but also somewhere where I didn't think anyone would see it. So,
right. And unless there is a truly hardcore hunter like another one of us out there, most of the guys, they go out and they'll hang their stands a week before the season starts if they're in fact bow hunters.
Yeah.
Shotgun hunters, they have their stands out there all year round, or they do their drives. You'll be out of there by then. And so you're probably, so here's the question to you, because you're going to be going to Ohio as well. Are you going to, depending on what, I guess a lot of it has to do with your trail cameras and what they produce, but are you going to be spending more time in Iowa or more time in Ohio?
Well, if it's okay, I'm going to defer from answering that in detail until we get a little further in the episode when I want to actually talk about the detailed plans. But I will say, just in general, I'm planning on probably splitting it half and half. And what's really going to take the hit is going to be Michigan. I'm not going to hunt Michigan a whole lot. I'm just going to bounce between Ohio and Iowa as much as I can without my wife divorcing me. And then I'll swing back into Michigan whenever I have to.
Right.
So that's kind of the game plan.
Right.
And then, like you said, trail cameras will play a part in it too. I mean, if I'm down in Ohio opening weekend and Glenn is showing up in daylight every single day, and every time I go down there after that, he's just all over the place, I'll probably continue focusing on that. But we'll just have to see what happens.
Right. And it's hard. It's going to be difficult, especially if Ohio or in Iowa, you pull your card, there's giants on it, and then you're also in Ohio, which is also another producer of giants. It's how do you know when to go type of thing.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough call. I mean, I've got a basic game plan in place, which we'll discuss in a couple of minutes, that I think is my framework for the season and my plans. But then I'm definitely going to let weather and trail cameras lead me in either way. So I'll probably be chasing weather fronts. It will be a big part of what I'll be doing. If a big cold front's hitting in Iowa, I'm going to drive 6 hours and hunt the cold front there. And then if it's hitting Ohio 3 days later, I'll pack up in Iowa and shoot on down to Ohio. And, we'll see.
Does your plan involve buying something expensive for your wife?
Many times, and of high monetary value. And
something that sparkles.
And lots of wine.
That's right.
So luckily I've got a very understanding wife, so
right.
I can do that. But that's my Iowa story.
Good. Well, best of luck.
Thank you.
I kind of hope you don't have any big bucks on your trail cameras. But speaking of trail cameras, what about your Michigan card pull?
Yeah, I'm kind of full of interesting updates today finally. So like I said last night, I got in really late. I had to unpack the car a little bit, And I tried to go to bed, but I couldn't go to sleep. I was like full of adrenaline from like just getting in the house and not being here for 2 months. So I'm laying there in bed at like 10:30 at night, and I'm not going to sleep. And I'm like, hey, Kylie, you care if I go check my trail cameras? So at like 11 o'clock at night, I went to go check trail cameras on one of my properties. And I was going to take my four-wheeler out there, but my four-wheeler wouldn't start. The battery died while I was gone. So then I was like, well, it's going to be a pain in the butt driving way or walking way back there. But at this point, I'd already kind of committed enough. I was wearing my boots, and I'd brought a headlamp out, so damn it, I was going. So I went trekking all the way back through these couple properties and pulled 2 camera cards. It was kind of a debacle. When I went out there, I found out my food plots, which had been sprayed a couple times before I left. Well, they were really grown up, so they're a mess. But got the cards, took them home, checked them last night. And I'm going to ask your guess again here, Dan.
Okay.
How many 3-year-olds or older do you think I got on camera?
Based off the last time that you checked your trail cameras, I think you said there was one maybe 3.5-year-old. So this time I'm going to just go with 0.
Yeah, it was a good guess. I think I've got not much better than that. I've got 2 maybe 3-year-olds. Wow. I think 2 or 3-year-olds. And actually, I should take that back. I think there's 3 that are 3-year-olds, but one of them is like a really funky buck. He's like his antlers. He's not got much going on in the antler department, but he's got a big body, and his horns are heavy. But it's like a 6-pointer, like kind of looks like a forky.
Yeah.
But there's 3 of them. Well, there's 2 forks and then little tiny brow tines, but massive, like big, heavy, and tight and tall. But he's got a bigger body, so I think he's probably 3. And then there's an 8-pointer who, it's not like it's nothing that gets you excited in Iowa, but he's a half decent 8-pointer in Michigan. Probably a 3-year-old, maybe 115-ish, maybe a little higher. And then there's a 9-pointer who's pretty wide. He's probably 17 inches wide, maybe. Not a ton of tine length, but decent bit. Nice brow tine. So he's my best buck. He's probably 3. He might be pushing somewhere in the 120s. I don't know. So nothing that's gonna get your average big buck hunter. But for Michigan, it's kind of what you expect on most places.
You know what's kind of cool about that though, is you have options, and granted, you can't hunt Iowa or Ohio every day of the season, but you can focus on maybe killing some does on your property and say to yourself, you know what? I am not going to kill a buck this year from what, obviously unless the slob walks out. I'm just going to let them all go. And therefore, you've done your part in saying, I'm not going to kill an immature deer.
Yeah, and definitely my main goal right now, unless a super giant buck shows up or a definite older mature buck shows up, is going to be trying to bring down the doe population. I think we've talked about it before, but there's a lot of does on this farm. And I think that's part of the reason why I'm not seeing as many mature bucks the last couple of years, is because I think the doe population keeps getting out of hand, and I've been trying to do my part, but obviously not enough. So I'm probably going to be focusing on does, but to be honest, here in Michigan, a 3-year-old is still top 10% deer most any properties. So if I get a crack at one of the better 3-year-olds, I would take it, because in Michigan that's something that's a good deer still. So that said, I'm not going to be investing tons and tons of time and obsessing over one of them, and I gladly see those bucks make it to another year too. But man, I was so disappointed last year. I had 2 3-year-olds who would have been really great this year. I was in Michigan, at least. I was excited for those 2 to make it through, and they didn't. So that's how it goes, though.
Yep. Part of it, I was nervous there. I think we talked about it a little bit, but I was nervous there for a while. I only had 2 mature bucks show up on my trail cameras, and for the area that I hunt, that's so-so. It's like, yeah, I do have some mature bucks to chase, but the last 3 seasons that I've had them on trail camera, they tend to stay nocturnal through the entire season, or they go to a different property where I never see them. So I was a little relieved when I pulled my trail camera, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and got like several big boys back.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, no, that was an awesome trail camera pull. You've got, I'd say you've got a good set of bucks to go after now.
Right. So here's some guy contacts me on Facebook and says, "Are you sure that buck you're calling Mark Kenyon is actually Mark Kenyon?"
I got a similar message.
Yep. And it's probably the same guy.
I'm sure it was, yeah.
So he shows me a picture of this buck on a different property, obviously, and I go, well, that could be him. The other property, they call him something different, but that left side looks so much like Mark Kenyon, just without the junk around the brow tines, and that's it.
Does I didn't see the picture that this other guy had. Does that picture really look like him?
It kind of does. I mean, it looks a little bigger than Mark Kenyon was last year, but his antlers look spindlier, like they're smaller. So it's like he put on a ton of tine length, but the mass kind of went away, which historically, the year you found his sheds and last year, he's all mass.
Yeah. You got to send that picture to me after this. I want to see that.
Yeah.
So here's a question, and this is kind of skipping ahead a little bit, but just out of curiosity, really quick here. Who would you rather kill, Mark Kenyon or Ryan Iberg? Ryan's older body deer, more history. Yep. Mark Kenyon probably has better antlered deer, plus there's history too. Just between those two, who would you rather kill?
Well, if it's just between those two, I'd really, gosh, I don't know. There's history with both, but I guess Ryan Iberg has, I mean, the guy that was in the tree with me for 4 years, and then I filmed him for all of last year. He found 2 sets of his sheds. I found one of his antlers, several trail camera pictures of him. Just doesn't cooperate during the season. I've seen him one time from the tree stand, and it was like at 65 yards right at last light. So, I would have to, that's tough, because if any one of them walked by, I'd shoot him. But I would, if I had one wish, it would probably be Ryan Iberg. He has a gigantic body, and he's so wide. He's probably 23 inches inside.
I can't blame you. That's an awesome buck.
But I have another buck I call Tupac, that he's a giant 10-pointer, and I shot him 2 years ago and never recovered him. And he's very noticeable because he's got a gigantic scar on his back where my arrow hit him, right? And this year he's back again for the 3rd year in a row. And I would, out of all the deer, I would love to kill him the most, because I've, failed once. I'd like to get him again.
Yeah, I can understand that desire for sure. So I guess since we're talking about this, let's jump right to it. Hit lists here. Because where I want to go now is I want to talk through our hit lists that we have so far. I want to talk through our plans for the season, in detail, and then our goals for the year in general. So, since we already talked about your bucks a little bit, what else do we need to know about the bucks that you are hunting this fall? You told us a little bit about Tupac, a little bit about Ryan, a little about Mark. Anything more that's worth sharing, and what other bucks do you think you're going to be targeting?
Well, it's hard to tell right now. I've only checked my trail cameras 2 times since May. So, I mean, I am not getting the time I would like to go out and check trail cameras. I might try to squeeze out and go check them again this weekend. The river, we've had so much rain in Iowa, these creeks are flooding. And one of my main trail camera areas has been underwater the entire time. So I don't really want to waste mineral and dump it down there just so it gets covered up in mud, or have the potential for the trail camera to get wet and flood. But I feel like I'm behind this year. in 2 weeks, I'm going to set up trail cam or tree stands. And I get, you got two kids. One of them's a baby. One of them's a crazy toddler. And it's just, I feel like I'm behind. I'm not going to get, 7 tree stands hung and trimmed out in 2 weekends, or the weekend that I do get to go. So I'm going to have to rely on a couple running gun sets to, go in there for the first time, set it up, and then back, hunt it once and then back out, and probably not hunt it until the rut. But as far as bucks are concerned, there's Tupac. He's the 10 I hit but never found. There's Ryan Iberg. He's just a gigantic wide 8. There's Dork. He's a really tight, tons of mass 8-pointer with split brows. And then there's Mark Kenyon, and then there's one I'm calling Ventura. He's going to be a mainframe 11-pointer. He looks like he's a 4-year-old. I'm debating on whether or not. I actually have trail camera pictures of him last year with another buck. So his body was definitely a 3-year-old last year. And then there's only one other buck as of right now that I have pictures of, and that's a buck Ryan passed last year as a 3-year-old. He's going to be a 4-year-old, maybe a 5-year-old this year, and he's all main beam. They go straight up, and then they kind of come out, and it's like they go out of his head at a V, and then they go straight forward, and then they have just really small little tines. So he looks gigantic head on, but then you turn, and he's really tall. But he's got really small antlers, or like G1s and G2s and G3s. And then hopefully, like last year, about the second, third week in October, No Show Jones shows up, and he's that 180 class that Ryan missed last year.
Yeah, that's the one I was curious about. I was
right.
wondering if
no pictures of him yet.
No word about him from anyone either?
Nope. I would like to say that someone would have noticed him, or would have you would have heard about if a big buck was shot this year in the surrounding area. But, and I don't want to sound like I'm bragging, but big deer get shot around that area every year, and people just consider it normal. You know what I mean? So yeah. Maybe I wouldn't have heard about it. I did talk to the landowner this year, and she said that the shotgun hunters had a good year. Huh. So I don't know what that means.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting. So, of all those bucks you've got,
right,
is Tupac still number one of all of those, or would No Show Jones take the cake, or who's number one? How about this? Rank your hit list for me, Dan.
Oof. Well, No Show Jones, if he jumped the same amount of inches that he did last year, or 2013 to 2014, and if he jumps again that same size from 2014 to 2015, we're talking a potential 200 incher, definitely 190s. So, yeah, I'd love to chase and get an opportunity at him. And he's been on the same path for 2 years in a row. So, I put my time in these certain spots, I might get a crack at him. He would be number one. Number 2 would be Tupac. Probably number 3 would be Ryan Iberg, and then number 4 would be Mark Kenyon, but that's all hypothetical. All these deer are shooters, and the first one that walks by my stand will potentially get an arrow. So,
all right. So let me throw another hypothetical at you.
All right.
Let's say you're hunting. It's November.
Okay.
And you have been seeing Tupac or No Show Jones, one of those two.
Right.
You've been seeing them repeatedly. Let's say you've had 3 encounters with each, but always just out of range. But they're in the area a lot. And then you've got your number 5 buck, or number 6 buck, or number 4 buck show up at 20 yards. Even though you've been seeing No Show and Tupac consistently, the last 3 days in a row, they've been there. You're almost on them. You're so close. You think you're going to seal the deal at any moment, and then number 5 shows up. What do you do?
Well, if he's number 5, that means he's mature and he's made the hit list, right? So here's what's happened. I've realized the past couple of years. I've been buck specific. The past, I'm going to say maybe 4 or 5 years, and I've passed some bucks that even for Iowa would be good, And I don't want to say I regret it, but I have all these memories and awesome encounters, but I don't have the period at the end of the sentence. So this year I am going to shoot, whether it's October 1st or January 10th, I'm going to shoot a mature, if it's in front of me and it's mature, I don't really care what the antlers look like. It will more than likely get an arrow at it.
Well, I think that's a pretty good goal. Is your definition of mature 5.5?
Well, it's probably it's 4. It's always been 4, but I really haven't had to make it a decision. I mean, I tell you what, in 2011 or 12, I passed a 150-inch 10-pointer 4-year-old, and I look back at the footage a while ago, and I'm like, why did I? What? It was the year I was chasing Shipwreck.
But wasn't he already dead?
No, it was the year after, before I shot Shipwreck.
Gotcha.
So I passed him after already having an encounter with Shipwreck, right? Thinking this Shipwreck is gonna, I'm gonna get another crack at him that year. I didn't. So I passed the biggest buck I ever would have killed at 3 yards.
Wow.
And you've probably seen that footage.
Yep.
I posted it to Facebook, but yeah, it's hard, and it's one of those things where 150-inch. If you play your cards right in the areas that especially where I hunt, you're going to get an encounter with a 4-year-old 150 class buck. If you put your time in, it's gonna happen. So I don't know, man. I don't want to say anything's for certain because it could be how I'm feeling the day it does happen, but I don't know. I don't know. What's your goal for Iowa or Ohio this year?
So goals. So goals for Ohio and Iowa. In Iowa, the top goal is to shoot a 4-year-old.
Okay.
Plain and simple, when it comes to a hunt like that that's pretty far away from home on brand new properties, I have no idea what's out there. I don't know the properties at all. I'm competing with other hunters. If I can leave the state of Iowa with my tag around a 4-year-old or better, I'm going to be pretty happy.
Right.
I probably, would walk into the beginning of the season in Iowa probably with like a 140-inch minimum in Iowa, I'd say.
Right.
Where I'm gonna, I'm gonna give it time. I'm not gonna rush. If there's a buck that's 125 that could be a 4-year-old, but I'm not sure, kind of iffy, I'm not gonna rush it. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna definitely get into the rut. I'm gonna hunt the rut hard. I'm gonna be there. We'll kind of, I'll bounce around here a little bit. Let me take a step back actually, and first explain to you kind of my plan here, and then I'll jump back to the goals for those states. But so my tentative plan right now, Dan, is, I've got, well, this could get really complicated, but I've got a whole bunch of hunts going on in September. We can talk about in a minute. But when I get back, will be just after Ohio opens. So I'm going to try to go to Ohio as soon as I can. And then as soon as I'm done in Ohio, come home for a weekend, do some hunts with my family, try to kill some does in Michigan. And then somewhere in mid-October-ish, I'm going to try to get to Iowa. And my goal for that is just to check those trail cameras, hang a couple stands, and try to observe those two properties just a little bit, just to learn them a little bit. And hey, if I happen to be, happen to get a shot at a deer, great. But it's more so just trying to learn that property a little bit more. So like I was just saying, I'm not going to rush it and shoot something that definitely doesn't fit the criteria of what I'm trying to do there in Iowa. Because 3 years ago, I think, is when I first hunted in Iowa. And at that point, I hadn't shot a whole bunch of mature deer. So when I got a chance at what I thought was a good 3 or 4-year-old decent buck, I shot him. And it wasn't by any means a giant Iowa buck, but it was a nice deer. It was a deer that made me happy, so I took him. This year, now that I'm going back, I'm much more interested in waiting it out, putting in the time, and being picky. So definitely want a 4-year-old, but for the first month or two of the season, October and all the way to November, I'm probably going to be pretty darn picky. I think the potential out there is enough that if I hunt smart and I take my time, I've got a chance at maybe my biggest buck ever. So I'm going to try to do that. And hope that I think it's going to force me to really learn a lot. I think it's going to be a challenge learning these two properties. That's going to be exciting for me. And, it's a challenge that'll make me a better hunter, I think, if I go about it the right way. So I want to take that on. I don't want to kind of skimp out easy. I don't want to shoot a 130 on the second day and just be done with it. I really want to sink my teeth into this and see what happens. So that's my goal in Iowa.
I'm going to give you one piece of advice.
Let's hear it.
And it's something that someone like you who, doesn't have access. I mean, even I get to hunt the same property over and over. This is going to be your first year, and you're going to be, coming to Iowa, quote unquote, land of the giants. You're going to be on from what you've already explained to me, a decent farm, which, as we all know, it's just a matter of time before your either trail camera picks it up or you see it from the stand. So do not, by any means, start over analyzing and questioning yourself on what your moves should be. You got to be, and this is how I'm going to play my cards this year. I'm going to be as aggressive as possible in the safest way, if that makes sense. I'm not going to be stupid about my decision making, but I think, and I've heard you talk about it a little bit, on conversations off the air, but I think my problem, and it sounds like your problem a little bit is maybe letting an opportunity slide by because we were sitting there questioning it instead of saying, I saw a hot doe being chased by a 3-year-old out of this bedding area. Well, if the doe came out of that bedding area, that means another buck's going to come downwind of it and check it. I need to be there. So instead of sitting back another day and watching it happen, you go do it.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I'm definitely going to be more aggressive this year too. And but to your point a second ago about not overanalyzing things, I'll try. But
yeah,
man,
it's hard.
It's me. Like, I am an overanalyzer.
Right.
So it's trying to find that balance. But I can already tell. Like, I'm already obsessing over these maps and like trying to study them to the T and figure everything out.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's, in my opinion, that's not overanalyzing. Overanalyzing comes at the moment of truth, at the time of the decision. So it's November 5th. You are trying to make a decision on where to hunt. You're sitting there going, well, what about this? Well, what about this? What about this? And I don't think as hunters we use our gut and our instinct enough, because other predators out there, they don't have Google Maps. They don't know what the wind direction is. They have to go by their instincts. And I think that that's something humans don't use as much, and that we hunters need to.
Can't argue with that. I think it's true. Man. And I think this is going to be a conversation that I think we're going to be having for the next 4 months or whatever. Once October hits, I'm sure we're going to be going through this, and I'm sure I'm going to have some struggle. I'm guaranteed I'm going to have some days where I'm struggling. I feel like I cannot figure this place out, and then there'll be some days probably where I'm going to come on the air and I'll be like, I learned something. Like, right. There's going to be some light bulb moments, and there's going to be some days when I probably make the wrong move, and there's going to be some days that maybe I make the right move. And I can guarantee you there's going to be some days I'm going to be pissed and ornery and stressed. But I think in the end, it's going to be fun.
It wasn't the last episode, but it was the 2 previous episodes where we talked to, was it Mark Drury and Don Kiske, right?
Yep.
And Drury was all about, hey, pressure systems, weather patterns, all these things, gotta keep an eye out for the moon phase and all that stuff. And that's great if you can drop what you're doing drop everything that you're doing and go hunt. Majority of people have jobs and they really can't do that. And, all that stuff is good information to know. And if you're a serious hunter, I definitely recommend it. But then you have Don Kiske, where he's like, temperature and wind direction are the most important things because you obviously don't want to get busted, via wind. But the pressure, the moon phase, you're going to be hunting anyway. So why get worked up and worry about it if it's not really going to affect the decision on where you hunt? Does that make sense?
It does. I mean, they definitely have two different takes. I personally have a preferential way of going about it. I lean more towards the Drury side of things because I am picky about when I hunt in certain areas. Like, I'm more in the camp of being careful about the pressure, about my personal hunting pressure I'm putting on. So I like to wait until the right conditions to go into those best spots. So I'm kind of half Drury, half Kiske, right? And I'm sure Drury's the same way in this. When he doesn't have the right weather, just like Don, he's still hunting. He just might not be in his best places. But then when he does get those factors that we talked about that become, the optimal conditions, then he dives into place X. So that's kind of more what I do. But I think it's interesting. I think the point, at least that I'm taking from what you're saying, is that there's a lot of ways to skin this cat, and you don't need to get too worked up in it because there's a lot of ways that can work.
Right, but what I guess who I'm trying to talk to is that guy who has 1 week vacation or 2 weeks vacation, and they may not be able to, they're busy during the weekends of October, they can't drop what they're doing and go hunt a cold front that's coming on a Tuesday morning or Tuesday afternoon in mid-October. You know what I mean? They can't do it.
Yeah.
They have to wait for the rut to hit. They have, let's say, 1 week or 2 weeks of vacation. It's really not beneficial for them to maybe hunt a high pressure system if the wind's right, but the pressure may be really low. You're going to want to hunt a good stand anyway because it's November, or just because the moon phase isn't optimal based off the readings. You don't want to really consider that because it's the rut and you're going to be hunting anyway. You know what I mean? Yeah,
I definitely agree with that. The rut trumps all. And when you're limited on time, you got to be out there.
Right.
At that point, it's all about putting in time.
I also think that as hunters, the more information you know, so it's good to know these things and have them in the back of your head. So when the time's right and you can start seeing patterns and you can go, hey, there is a high pressure front coming. The moon phase is optimal for this. I am going to be in this stand at this wind direction. And now all the cards are stacked in your favor. It's good to know that, but it's one of those things that I think all this knowledge, knowledge is power. All these things it's just another thing to think of when it may not be in your best interest to think about or use that information to make a decision.
Yeah, you got to have a filter.
Right.
But yeah, I definitely
There's my rant.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's a good rant. I like it. I think it's important to have, realistic expectations of how you can use this stuff too and not get too worked up.
Right.
At the same time, by knowing some of these things, like in the situation you just described, if I know that these things are lining up, I'm going to be hunting. Hey, number one, it gives you some more confidence. And every time you have more confidence in when you're hunting, the more confidence you have in a certain hunt, in a certain sit, the more likely you're going to be on your A game. You're going to have that little extra edge. You're going to be paying attention just a little bit more. And when it comes to hunting mature bucks, that little tiny bit of even added attention can sometimes make the difference. It's the little stuff.
I'm jacked. Yeah, I'm jacked. I'm freaking jacked right now. Like I could go roll a car over. I want to hunt so bad right now.
I'm not going to go that far, but I do want another beer if that counts. Right?
Intermission. This would be a perfect time for the Sitka commercial or whatever commercial you have. This.
And now break. A word from our sponsors. And seriously, we're really probably going to put it right here. All right, so as promised, it's now time for a brief message from our sponsors of this podcast, Sitka Gear. And as we've been doing all year, we've got Sitka product category leader Dennis Zuck with us today. And with hunting season quickly approaching and many of us looking to pick up some new gear before hunting, I wanted to get Dennis's recommendation on what Sitka products might be good ones to start with if you're looking to try it out without breaking the bank. So here's Dennis's take.
Yeah, and I mean, we all work for a living. I work for a living, and when I'm looking at that, and I'm just trying to get the most out of that, my hard-earned dollar. I think the strata system is a great example for that. It's something that I can add a layer to. I can take a layer away. I can reconfigure it if I need to, not wear the jacket, just wear the pant. I can do a lot with that system in a layering aspect and get a lot out of it. The pockets are built so that they're fairly straightforward. A couple chest pockets, a couple side pockets. It's still got your hunter pass through. But I think that system is something you're gonna put on. You're gonna experience what good technologies do, what good materials do, how much more comfortable I stay in the woods, and you can add to it, and you can continue to move through it. You can grab that solstice jacket next and throw it underneath and take you later into the season. So for me, I think the strata system is something that's gonna just help, that guy bridge the chasm the first time, and come into Sitka.
Are there any accessories that you would say are like the first ones? Like, is there a hat or a set of gloves or anything else like that you would make sure to pick up too if I had the money to add those on?
Yeah, and so funny, like on the glove side, just kind of for the bow hunter guy especially, one of my cheapest gloves is my Fanatic glove, because it isn't about making the most expensive system. It's about being focused. So I think the Fanatic glove is something that if you're an archery guy, you should absolutely own that glove. It looks like that one years ago I cut a couple fingers off of and hunted out of, but it's a little better than that now. We put some good make into it. And then from a hat perspective, the Stratus hat's fantastic, so it matches that system. In fact, there's times that I'll wear that Stratus hat instead of my Fanatic hat, So I think those couple of accessories are big, if you want to add those pieces to kind of make sure you have the kit, which we talk about all the time.
So if you're interested in trying the Stratus jacket, pant, or hat, or the Fanatic gloves, visit sitkagear.com. And now, back to the show. So what would be next? Oh, so goals. We talked about Iowa, my goals. Ohio will be slightly different. Because in Iowa, I'm going to be a little bit picky, but in the end, it's just going to come down to a 4-year-old. If it gets to the end of November and it's just not happening, I'm not seeing, this kind of Iowa giant that maybe I've been pining for the last 2 months. If it comes to later in the year, and if I can get a crack at a mature buck, I'll be super happy with that too. And so that'll be where that's at with Iowa. Because it's not easy to go into a new state and new properties and always figure it out. So in Ohio, going to be slightly different. Again, I'm going to be, having the cutoff at the 4-year-old mark. Definitely want to shoot a 4-year-old or older. But I'm going to be, I think, more buck specific in Ohio. Now, right now, I don't know for sure who's back this year because I haven't got to check my Ohio trail cameras, but I'm checking them next weekend. So not next week, but the week after that episode, I'll have an update on my Ohio trail cameras. And that'll make a big difference, obviously, in what my plans are. But, perfect scenario, perfect world. Glenn is back. Junkyard is back. The Beast is back. Any one of those three would be just a phenomenal, life-changing buck to kill. Because they were all Boone and Crockett caliber bucks last year, if not significantly higher. And they were all 4-year-olds or older last year. 2 of them were 5 or 6. So this year they're all going to be 5 or older. They're all going to be giants. And they're all going to have a pretty significant history on my farm. Glenn, obviously, the most. We've talked about it a lot. But if he's around, by all means, he's going to be the one I'm after. Since I missed him twice. I've seen him 3 years in a row, 2 years in a row. This will be the 3rd year. I've got hundreds of pictures of him. So really, I'm hopeful that Ohio can be a single buck hunt. I've really come to enjoy learning one buck, developing a relationship, in that hunter-prey kind of way, and trying to figure out how to get close enough to get a shot. That would be, a successful season in Ohio without a doubt would be getting to hunt one of those guys closely and having some close calls and hopefully getting to kill one. That'd be incredible. If they're all gone for some reason this year, then it'll be, I want to shoot a nice 4-year-old, 140, 150 inch or bigger, because I know that property can produce deer like that consistently, that area. So that's what Ohio looks like. But I'm hopeful, even though it's a small property, it's just in a good location. So I know if I'm there enough, I should have a crack at one.
Right.
So I'm excited.
We need to backtrack a bit.
Yeah?
Because you're going to two others. You're going to Idaho with me on our mule deer hunt, and that's what, like 22 days.
Is it that fast?
It's
That soon?
You're picking me up on August 28th.
How crazy is that?
Oh my God! I I don't even know. Like I'm looking at this bed behind me, and I have all my stuff. I don't even have everything I need quite yet. But I got my Sitka gear. I got my uh, mountain pantry, whatever food. I got my game bags. I got all the stuff, the camp, the tent, the trekking poles, all this stuff I got now, and I'm just like, oh my God, it's becoming a reality fast. And I'm trying to watch what I eat. I'm trying to I'm trying to get my heart rate up every day. I'm trying to hit the gym as much as I can. And I don't know.
How do you feel?
Obviously,
How do you feel about the hunt? Are you just excited, or are you a little bit nervous, or what are your emotions about this whole thing coming up? Because this is brand new for you.
right. I mean, this is big country, and you've seen the maps where we've decided to hunt.
And I've been there.
Yeah, yeah. So like my expectation is I don't have an expectation, because my goal is to first survive, get up. First we got to worry about the road that gets back there. Everybody says it's fine. Once we get back there, then we have like a mile and a half, even if this is what we've decided, a mile and a half hike up that I think there's maybe an 800-foot elevation gain throughout where we park our car to where we're camping. Then there's another, like 400 to 600-foot elevation gain from our camp to where we're going to start glassing. And then, the area is gigantic. And I've never hunted mule deer. I don't know really what they do out there in that high country, but man, I'm going balls out, and I'm gonna do whatever I can to try to get one. Most important is to just absorb that nature and this experience, because I've seen the pictures and it is absolutely gorgeous out there.
Yeah, it's I cannot guarantee that you will be comfortable.
Right.
I cannot guarantee that you will not be miserable at times.
Right.
I cannot guarantee you that we'll see deer or that we'll kill deer.
Right.
But I can guarantee you that by the time it's done, you will have had an awesome time and saw some incredible things and places. So,
right. Well, I tell you what, I'm okay with being uncomfortable. I mean, that's what this trip's. It's about going outside of your comfort zone and doing something different. That's what life is about. And if I'm uncomfortable, man, I'm uncomfortable. If I can't be Cameron Haynes and run a 300-pound rock up the side of a mountain, I can't do that. But what I can do is I can go slow and pace myself and make those decisions based off how and there's no way to tell unless I'm actually up there.
Yeah.
So
that's the right attitude to have going into it, I think, for sure.
All I want to do is just get a ton of pictures that I can have for the rest of my life and be like, here's a picture of my camp. This is my hunting buddy Mark. This is, the view from day one glassing, and just have those memories to show my kids. Cause I don't know, this is kind of off topic, but I hate rotting in a cubicle. And, from where you were to where you're at, you had your life-changing experience. This is how I have my life-changing experiences. I sit and stare at two computer screens all day long about stuff that may or may not interest me, but I don't know. It's just this is my dream, and it's coming true, and I just have to absorb it.
Yeah, you're gonna have a blast. I'm excited. I'm excited for you to get out there, and I can definitely relate. I certainly had that same rotting in a cubicle misery for a long time too, and
right.
I know how much it, I'm sure you do this. I do this all the time. You just sit at your desk, rotting in the fluorescent light, looking at these pictures and looking at maps and just dreaming about being out there and dreaming of doing that stuff the whole time, and just kind of like you obsess over it.
Right.
When it finally happens, it's incredible. So it's gonna be fun. I will say for me, even though I've done several mountain hunts, even though I lived out there the past 2 months, and we just figured out we camped 29 nights. We were in our tent 29 nights over the past 2 months. We hiked, I think, over 150 miles, and there was one other thing we figured out, but now I can't remember what it was. But so we did a lot of stuff out there. I'm even a little intimidated by this country.
Right.
So I think I'll probably even be miserable trying to get up to some of this stuff because, man, even though, like you said, we found this road, this little 2-track that we can take back there a ways into this national forest. And like you said, that's even, iffy. We don't know how far we'll be able to get. But even if we can get all the way as far as we hope we can get, and even though at that point it's a relatively short hike into some of these basins, it's not going to be easy hiking, that's for sure.
No.
And I keep thinking back to last year when I killed my elk and the hikes in and out with that thing on my back, and that has now influenced every decision I make, because I just think about how it felt like there were 2 meat hooks into my shoulders that someone was pulling down with all their strength for 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 hours. And I imagine that happening again. So it'll be miserable at times, but it'll be awesome.
Right. But it's an experience, and
Yeah.
it's what's that level 3 on the fun meter?
It'll be definitely 2, if not 3.
Yeah.
We'll definitely be living in that gray area between, I imagine.
Yeah.
It's gonna be awesome. So your first mule deer hunt, and then I'm assuming
Nebraska. I was out there hunting mule deer, but that's Nebraska. And although the terrain was up and down, there wasn't the elevation, there wasn't the thin oxygen. This is a Western hunt. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm trying to read up. I'm trying to prepare myself mentally. Like, if you're willing to sit in a tree stand for however many hours, you got to be willing to do what, I don't know. It's just like the mountain that you're on doesn't care about you at all. It's there as an obstacle, and you have to use your mental toughness to beat it. And it doesn't get beat very often. You know what I mean?
That's the truth. It's going to be an experience, and it's gonna. We're definitely gonna share with all of our listeners everything that happens on a podcast episode right after that. So keep your ears tuned in for that. Hopefully it'll be. Hopefully we'll survive. Hopefully there will be a podcast after that. Assuming we do survive that, and there is a podcast episode after that, I'll be coming home for a week after our mule deer hunt. Got a wedding to go to. And then I'm going back out to Idaho with another one of my friends to do our elk hunting trip, same place we did the past 2 years. So I'm hopeful that maybe I'll be able to repeat. That's unlikely, but I'm going to give it my best. And I feel like we're learning a lot. We're figuring it out. We'll see what happens there. I'm excited about that. And then I come back for a day, and then I'm actually going to Oregon for a hunt. And this was kind of unexpected, but my contacts at Lacrosse Boots, our partners there, they also own Danner Boots, and they invited me to come out and check out their headquarters in Portland, Oregon, to learn a little bit more about what they're doing with their boots, and to do a little hunt with them in Eastern Oregon. So I couldn't say no to that. So That's going to be at the end of September. I'm going to do that, a short trip out there, meet some good people, I'm sure, and have some fun. And then I get back, opening day, the opener of Ohio's bow season for whitetails. So as soon as I can get away from here, I'll be heading to Ohio and then starting the whole whitetail charade we just talked about. So
Nice. And that's when our wives kind of have to realize they're number 2.
Don't
they're
say
number
that.
2 for a while.
You're not supposed to say that out loud, Dan.
Oh, my wife knows. And, she's fine with it right now. And then as that 2-week rut vacation kind of, for you, it's different, no kids, no problems. Right. So for me, that rut vacation starts, and it's, oh, hey, how'd you do? The phone call every night. It's like turns from how you do? Oh, you saw a buck. Good. Oh, cool. And then it slowly slides into, You see anything? All right. Well, I'll talk to you later. Then towards the end of that 2-week vacation, it's when are you coming home? When are you coming home? They know when you're coming home, but they don't care.
Yeah.
When are you coming home?
even without kids, I still get that same thing.
Right.
But I can't imagine now that you've got two of them. It's going to be even more difficult, I'm sure.
You know, I'm gonna get some help from family, but you know, I'm gonna have a nice like you already know. I'm having a nice little vacation for my brother's wedding on November 7th.
I keep forgetting that.
Jesus Christ,
That is awful.
I don't want to talk about it because I'll just like my wife's gonna be pissed at me because I don't want to leave for the wedding until Friday morning, so we can make the rehearsal dinner. Wedding it's on Saturday. First thing Sunday morning, she's gonna want to say her goodbyes and take her time getting ready, and I'm gonna be let's get the bus rolling.
So it's 3 full days that you're gonna miss.
I'm gonna miss. My goal is to be back in the stand Sunday evening, so
Okay.
I'm gonna miss probably the Friday evening hunt, all day Saturday, the Sunday morning hunt, and hopefully get back into the stand by Sunday evening.
Okay.
That probably won't happen, but at least I'll be ready for Monday morning for the next week.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do? You going to miss your brother's wedding?
Yeah, can't do that.
No.
Can't do that. Well, I hope that you shoot your buck just after you get back from that, because I'll be in Iowa at that point.
Oh yeah, that's right. My goal is to, and I got a really good feeling about this ag field where I'm getting all these big boys.
Can you tell me a little bit about that, since I've been there? Which one is this?
This is where me and Corey found the match set.
So it's where
the very first walk we did, where we walked that corn and bean field.
That's where there's that little scraggly tree that you sat in last year, and you saw that big 9-pointer in October, right?
Right. So that big grass buffer strip that we walked.
Yep.
Okay, that's not where I'm going to set up. I'm going to set up. There's a little terrace with some trees in it, and that's where I'm going to set up. And it's going to be while the crops are still in, and I'm telling you right now, I feel that corn / bean field in that area holds a ton of mature. It's 80 acres, and that strip last year, 2 years ago, when it was the same crop rotation, corn on the south end, beans on the north, I walked in there just to check it out, and I bumped like a 170, a 150, and they were all still kind of like in a bachelor group, and then a smaller buck. So this year, same crop situation. I got this trail camera up now, so I'm starting to see where they're working through the corn, and I got this area where this little narrow pinch comes together. The corn does. They stay in the corn, and I'm going to set my tree stand up there where I'm going to have a shot in this bean field and a shot into the corn field. And if I say my prayers and I get there on the right wind condition, I feel that I'm going to have an encounter with a big mature buck the first weekend that I can hunt.
So here's my question for you.
Yeah.
Are you going to go in there that first week and you can hunt, if it's a kind of a hot day, you've got a decent wind, but the weather's not great or all the other conditions aren't right? Or are you going to wait because you feel like that spot's so good that you're going to wait till a couple of these other things line up?
So here's the problem with that area. Crops come out, deer go away, right? So I have to make sure I know when the farmer's going to combine. Because when he goes in, he's pushing all those deer to the south. And they either have to come loop back around or they're already out of there by then. I just have to make sure that I beat I have enough time to get a tree stand up. I think what I'm going to do is put an observation stand back further away from where I want to hunt. Watch the deer movement, see where they're at, and then make a move in. Because regardless of if it's hot or not, they feel so comfortable. I mean, I got daylight pictures already of all those bucks. Granted,
awesome.
Granted that things change, you know what I mean, from the time that from August to October. But who knows, man? I there's nothing really to do except go in and try it.
It's the truth.
Because once the crops are out, those bucks are going to go find someplace else, which means that's good for me. It just eliminates one gigantic piece of property that I don't need to worry about anymore.
Right. So, do you only get one tag in Iowa for archery? Is that right?
So, I can get my archery tag, right? And then if I was a landowner, I can get one, which I'm not, so I can't get that landowner tag. But I can also get a late season muzzleloader tag, and I can use my bow for that. So I could literally shoot 2 bucks. It's a primitive weapons tag, so you could it's a muzzle. They call it a muzzleloader season, but you can use your bow, I'm pretty sure, for that late season.
Gotcha.
So technically, I could shoot a buck with my bow, a buck with a muzzle loader, and then a shotgun buck. So you could shoot, I think you can shoot 3 bucks in Iowa without being a landowner.
Nice.
And then a landowner tag on top of that. But I've never been into, I haven't yet. I'm going to. I don't know when. Muzzle loader. I'm going to give it a shot, I think.
Yeah. Well, hopefully this is the first, maybe this year you'll have to make that question because you'll fill your archery tag early.
Hey, you never know, man. I tell you what, I'm pumped, and I think
Have we said that enough to people out there listening? Can you tell we're excited?
It's one of those things where it's just like, now that I'm sitting here talking to you is when it really starts to bubble up, because I've been so preoccupied with work, with family. I try to shoot my bow as much as possible. 4 times a week is pretty good for me. Ben from Huntera was over 2 nights ago, and we shot.
Yeah, how'd that go?
It went pretty good. We got a makeshift range in our backyard that goes up to 60 yards. So we were letting them fly at 60. Then we got into the truck and started driving around some public and private land down where I live, and saw a ton of deer out, tons of does, couple good bucks. I think the biggest one we saw maybe 145, maybe a 4-year-old.
Okay.
But saw a lot of deer. The county I live in has high numbers, so which is cool.
Can I tell you about my plans today after we get done recording?
Your plans today?
Yeah, I'm pretty damn excited.
Okay.
It's going to be pretty similar to what you and Ben did. I'm
Gotcha.
going to eat dinner after this, and then I'm going to shoot my bow on my new targets for a little bit. I'm going to drive a 4-wheeler out. Well, hopefully the 4-wheeler's battery has been charging. Hopefully the battery's recharged. I'm going to go out to that property and put new SD cards in those.
Nice.
And do a couple maintenance things on them. And then I'm going to do a deer drive here in Michigan, and I'm going to hopefully see some bucks.
You're a deer drive, meaning you're going to walk through the middle of your timber and bump everything you can?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. I mean, I'm going to get in my truck, and I'm going to drive around the roads and hopefully see some deer in the fields.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that because I haven't got to do that at all. I did do that in Iowa 2 nights ago, twice, when I was out there. And I saw, the first night we saw some good ones. We saw like a 150 something and then a couple in the 140s. So that was fun. It was fun. It got a little bit of good footage, so that was nice to see. But who knows? It's always fun to do it here in Michigan too. And Kylie will come with me, and we'll take a nice little drive. So
I got a question for you.
yeah.
Do you have your tree stands already hung in Ohio, or do you have to do a tree stand day yet?
So I've got most of the stands hung. Well, I think all of our stands are hung. I do need to put new steps on one of them, and I need to trim them.
Okay.
So when I go there next weekend, here's the plan for next weekend. We're gonna leave Friday afternoon once my buddy Corey can get out of work. We're gonna try to get to the property early enough that I can hop out of the truck and sneak in with my camera and set up and try to film this property, because this property and the next door have got beans. So I'm going to try to sit out there that night and film, and hopefully some of the big boys will come out and feed that night. The next day, I'm going to pull those trail camera cards when I walk out. And the next day, I'm going to spend the day trimming tree stands, checking on all of them, make sure the straps are good, make sure they're all set, do all that maintenance stuff, put some new steps up. And then that night, we're just going to drive around the neighborhood and hopefully see a couple other good ones too. So that's the plan, but not too much more work that has to be done there. Got to rearrange the cameras a little bit. I'm going to shift the trail camera locations since I won't be coming back at all in September. I want to put them in location to be taking good pictures in September, so I'll start moving them a little bit. But that's the game plan.
Nice.
I don't think we've mentioned this yet, but damn it, I'm excited.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
There's a buck that I named for you on one of your properties. I don't know if it was Ohio or Michigan.
Oh, yeah?
I remember I named him Boner City.
Yes, I do.
Whatever happened to Boner City? Is he out there?
You know, when we hadn't ever talked about him on the air before, and I always thought in my head, whenever we talk about him on the air, we'd call him BC. But
no, it's too late now. It's Boner City.
It's too late. The cat's out of the bag.
It don't matter. There's no rating on the internet.
Oh no,
I've heard some crazy things on the internet.
No, we're good. We're good. So he disappeared. I got pictures of him twice last summer.
Who disappeared?
You're an asshole. Boulder City disappeared last year.
Okay, there you go.
He was.
There goes the sponsors.
There it all goes. You got a place.
Google.
You got a place in your house I can stay. I got pictures of him twice, and that was it. Never saw him during the season. No pictures of him. Nothing. And I got another really nice 10-pointer last summer too, one time, but he was gone too. So man, it was just like between last year and this year. You know, I've moaned about it. Yeah. Things went downhill here. I don't know what happened, but for a while there, it's like every year it was getting better, and I felt like I was having a management impact. I felt because I was passing on a lot of deer. I'd been talking to my neighbors, and we talked about them passing on more deer. Things had been improving year after year. In 2013, I had like 5 shooters on the property. One was like a booner. One was in the 140s. Another was in the 130s. A couple in the 130s. So it was like looking good. And then last year, they disappeared. And now this year, it doesn't look much different. So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
You got options though. I mean, you're not limited to just Michigan, so I guess be thankful for that, right?
Yeah. And Michigan's a great state. I'm gonna have fun hunting does here, and I'm gonna be, when I am home, I'm gonna kind of play with the bucks here a little bit. I'm gonna be much more aggressive here because I'm not so concerned. I'm gonna try some new things and get kind of crazy with it, and just see, if I happen to get a crack at one of these deer, awesome. But if I spook them and bust up the whole place, it's not going to be the end of the world for me here because like you said, I've got options. So,
when are you and the wifey moving to a different state?
Man, we talk about it all the time.
I'm sure that conversation has come up.
Oh, it happens a lot. The thing is that, both me and my wife really enjoy a lot of different kinds of outdoor recreation. She especially we both especially love the mountain stuff. So hiking, backpacking, camping, fly fishing, all that stuff. Everything we're doing this summer, we love. And Kylie really loves all that and the culture and everything out there. I am the only one who really loves the deer stuff. So I think if we were ever to move, I think it'd be a hard sell to go to purely whitetail land because that wouldn't be so much for her. So right now, though, it's just a family thing. I think still, especially her, just not ready to leave the family. So I think for the time being, the compromise is just going to be that we're probably going to live in the mountains for a month or something like that every year, as long as we've got the flexibility to do it. We're going to travel a lot, and I'm going to hunt as many different places as I can. So for now, I'm just going to put a lot of miles in the truck, but we'll see.
Gotcha.
Well, I don't know about you, but my stomach's grumbling. I think I got to eat some dinner. So should we wrap it up?
Go knock on a door after this.
Are you?
Yep.
Were you inspired by my 13-door day?
Well, kind of. I mean, I've already knocked on this guy's door 3 times, and he wasn't home to answer the door. So I went turkey hunting on this property this year, and now I'm going to ask permission to whitetail hunt. And I don't know. We'll see what happens.
It's a good tactic, the old turkey first step.
I call it the turkey foot in the door method. That was dumb? Is that dumb?
That's real dumb, but it's not unexpected. Not
all
unexpected
right, thanks.
at all.
Have a good day.
And on that note, We're going to wrap this thing up. So, couple quick updates before we do that. First, if you haven't seen on the blog, we're doing this new thing on Wednesdays on Instagram, #WiredToHuntWednesday. It's a little giveaway. Every Wednesday, post a picture on your Instagram account that's related to hunting. Make it kind of cool, kind of unique. And we're going to take a look at those every Wednesday and pick our favorite of that day and send them a free Wired Hunt decal. So, every Wednesday, post your pictures on Instagram and use the hashtag. That's like the number sign, if you're not familiar. #WiredHuntWednesday. Include that in your little caption. And maybe we'll send you a decal. And the decals are pretty cool. Dan, do you have one yet?
A decal?
Yeah.
No, I do not.
All right.
I have a T-shirt. You gave me a hat. That's pretty much all I have. And for a co-host, I feel like I should be head to toe. I'm waiting for my Wired to Hunt Jordans.
Well, I don't have any Jordans yet, but I'll send you a Wired Hunt G-string.
Yes.
Yes.
Deep dish, please.
I figured that was what you were waiting for. All right,
I can only imagine what my wife would do if I walked into the house wearing a G-string and being like, "Hey, babe," she'd probably kick me right in the groin.
That might be a good way to get more time away from the house hunting, though. If you do that, she might want you out of there.
Right.
So, Wired Hunt Wednesdays. We'll send you a decal. I'm not going to send you a Speedo or any weird underwear. Other updates other than the Wired Hunt Wednesday giveaway. If you haven't left a review for the Wired Hunt podcast yet, maybe after this episode and all the weird stuff we've talked about, maybe you do want to go on there and leave some thoughts. Let people know that we're kind of strange, or maybe if you like the podcast, say that too. But whatever you feel, we would love it, and we would appreciate it if you could leave us a rating or a review on iTunes. It helps a ton, especially as the hunting season comes on. There's going to be lots of people trying to find a good deer hunting podcast, and if you share your thoughts there, they'll be able to figure out if the Wired Hunt podcast is worth spending their time on. So thank you in advance for doing that. Let's see, other housekeeping things. If you're not subscribed yet, definitely recommend that too. You can use Stitcher on Android. You can use the podcast app if you use an Apple device. Makes things super easy. It'll go right to your phone every time, every Thursday, hopefully, or this week, Friday. And otherwise, I think that's it. Just have to, of course, thank our partners who help, make this podcast possible. We really appreciate their support. They're instrumental in us being able to have a great website and a great podcast, and the videos that are going to be coming out this year. All that, it's not free. It takes people that believe in us to give us the ability to do that. So huge thank you to Sitka Gear, to Trophy Ridge, Bear Archery, Redneck Blinds, Huntera Maps, Ozonics, Carbon Express, Lacrosse Boots, and the Whitetail Institute of North America. And if you're enjoying what we're doing, please support those companies too, because they make this possible. And finally, more importantly, everything we've talked about today, thank you all for taking the time out of your day, out of your drive, your walk, your gym session, whatever you're doing. Thank you for listening to us gab. Thanks for listening to us talk about how excited we are. And, we appreciate everything you guys do. The feedback you give us, the emails, the messages, the tweets, means a lot. So thanks.
And one quick extra thing is this is the perfect time of year to start kissing your wife's butt.
It's a good final tip, Dan.
Yep. So sorry for interrupting, but I had to say it because I'm going to go kiss my wife's butt here pretty soon.
All right. So on that note, thanks for joining us. Thanks for kissing some butt. And of course, Dan, say it for me.
I can't. I'm not the host yet. That's your job.
I thought you could have done a pretty good job co-hosting with the final slogan, but
But wait, I'll get my chance when I beat you in the contest.
We haven't checked Ohio pictures yet, my friend.
Right, but there's still velvet time. I'll say it when the time's right.
All right, you hold on to it then.
All right.
And in the meantime, everybody else out there, stay wired to hunt.
I'm sure a lot of you guys remember the old ceremonial hunting tradition of eating the heart out of the first animal you kill. Meat from those organs are among the most nutrient-rich foods on the planet. You can get those same benefits your ancestors craved via convenient daily capsules from Heart and Soil. Find out more at heartandsoil.co. And remember, use code MeatEater for 10% off your purchase.
Outdoor adventure won't wait for engine problems. Things like hard starts, rough performance, and lost fuel economy are often caused by fuel gum and varnish buildup. Seafoam can help your engine run better and last longer. You simply pour a can into your gas tank. Hunters and anglers rely on Seafoam to keep their engines running the way it should the entire season. So pick up a can of Seafoam today at your local auto parts store or visit seafoamworks.com to learn more.